Hey, boys and girls, Doug Childs here. It's Warriors, Rich.
And Wildmen, what's happening, Doug?
Hey, we changed the name from Cigars and Sermons to Liberty Fellowship. Dang it, Rich, I had to grow up. And
well, it had to go from a thing to a
Right.
church. And when it was a Bible study based on people hanging out and having a cigar, that's what you call it what it is, Cigars and Sermons. But guess what? It turned into a church. Now you got to call it what it is, and it's a church, and I like it. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's positive.
yeah, I didn't want to name it, after a mountain or a body of water.
Yeah,
I wanted
whatever.
to name it, Rich, after this concept called liberty. Our good friend, Captain Rob Reinecker, who used to hang out with Dr. Kennedy when he went to Knox Seminary, he said that Kennedy one time said, as Kennedy would do, he's like,
G. James Kennedy, evangelism, explosion Kennedy.
Yeah, exactly.
For
He said-
people who don't know
he
who
goes,
that
you know what defines Christianity? One word, liberty. And most people, when they think of Christians, they don't think that. They think nice and meek and mild. And Dr. Kennedy said liberty is what defines the believer. So we went with it, man. We went with it, and we were finding it problematic when people would invite folks to our church when we called it Cigars and Sermons.
Yeah.
I'm a genius, brother. I'm an absolute genius.
But
man.
I'll tell you what, I think fair enough. I'm a firm believer in calling meetings what they are. Catchy names and stuff are okay sometimes, But like we have in our cell breakdown of how we do cell groups in our church, we have this is how we name them, Doug. It's pretty crazy. We have a closed cell, which you can't invite people to. It's invitation only. And we have an open cell, which you do invite people to. It's an evangelistic cell. Another name or term we use for the closed cell is a discipleship cell. So you know what happens at that one. The open cell is also called an evangelism cell. You know what happens at that one. So I'm a firm believer in naming something what it is. And so I don't like when people name churches things that's not a church. It just doesn't make sense to me. If it's too common, then it's not. If it's a church, then are you ashamed of the name? Are you ashamed that it's a church? You trying to trick people? Like that don't make any sense to me. But when it's a church, just call it a church. You can call it any name you want to choose, but church, is a church, right? I think that's important. I do.
Yeah, and I dig the whole liberty aspect of it, especially nowadays,
Powerful.
Rich, when we've got draconian overlords trying to, emasculate we the people and the brothers in particular. And, kind of in an homage to Dee Snider and Twisted Sister, it's like we're not going to take that.
Yep.
So where the Spirit of the Lord is, Rich, there's this weird thing called liberty, and we're going to celebrate it.
I love
Because
it.
Christ sets us free from demons, sets us free from disease, sets us free from death, hell, and the grave. And you know what? He sets us free from big government goons also.
And from
So,
ourselves, which is a big one. It's funny
Big
that
time.
you say that freedom. I remember a guy saying one time that God delivered them from Egypt and then said, meet me on the mountain. He didn't deliver them and say, go where you want. He said, meet me right here. When they went there, he said, Moses, come up on the mountain. Here's 10 commandments. Tell the people this is what's up. And he bound them with a covenant. And this pastor said this. I loved it. He said, he freed you from who you were bound to so he could bind you to the one who freed you. But that's freedom, right? Being bound to sin's not freedom. It's death and destruction. But, Jesus said he came that we would have life and life more abundantly. And so I love that. Annie was also talking about a very interesting concept she's writing a blog on right now, talking about yielding or a surrender to Christ. And she said it's not, and this is Matthew Henry's take on it, and this is a good perspective. It doesn't rule out the other ones, but he says it's not a military surrender. It's not a military yielding like a conquered foe, but it's how a wife yields to a husband in authority. And when you tie that in with all the verses that I know that are rattled around in your head right now, it's a yield by choice because he earned it. So I love the name Liberty. When you first told me about it, when I first saw it, I love it. I think it's powerful. It has so many different aspects and expressions of the truth of the gospel and the scriptures and the things that we need in our life. I love it. I think it's a fantastic name. One of my favorite names, actually. Ask me why I named my church what I named my church.
So, Rich, why did you name your church what you named your church?
Well, it used to be called Generations, but I didn't own anything that said Generations online, so it was hard to get out there ahead of negative news. And then we started looking for a name. People were praying and trying to hear from the Lord. And the Lord spoke to me in a different way. I saw that DestinyChristianChurch.com was for sale, and I bought it. And I said, "Thus saith the Lord, we are now Destiny. Let's go." So, powerful name, different route. Here we are.
Yeah, it's better than Misery Christian Church, which a lot of churches are nowadays, or Tweedle Your Nutsack Christian Church, or we've completely given up and yielded the world over to the devil.com Christian Church.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot in the name, man. And Destiny, Liberty, it was my only other option, man, when we were just brainstorming was Balls and Brains Christian Church, and they're like, "Doug, that's the same thing as Cigars and Sermons." Yeah, so you got a board.
You know our friend Dean Curry,
right?
I was just at his church in Tacoma, Washington. Great church, great people. He's an awesome guy, and the name of his church is Our Church. It's literally Our Church, and when he talks about it, he says Our Church, and I love it because there's a guy who has a church in Las Vegas, and it's called The Church at Las Vegas, and people got mad at him. Like if it was, and I have met the guy. I don't know him personally. We have a lot of mutual friends. This guy's not like that. He's not trying to be a butthole. He's just saying, "Hey, we're the church at Las Vegas," like it says in the Bible, the church at Ephesus. And people got mad at him. I thought it was a great name, but I think people are going to have a hard time
tell you what, man,
misreading or misunderstanding Our Church because it's inclusive, right? It's cool.
Yeah, I think the Church of Las Vegas. I mean, you can't find a more brilliant SEO name.
Yeah.
Because anytime you type in church Las Vegas, boom,
you're there. Yeah. And this guy's a great pastor, great preacher. He's a lot of my friends know him. He's a good guy. So I don't know. People are going to pick on whatever, but I love Liberty Church. I think it's a great name.
Hey, I'm going to, speaking about liberty, I'm going to be speaking at Dr. Hotze's conference on, let me see if I can pull it up real quick before we dive into today's topic, Rich. So he's got a one-day conference in Houston, and Gary DeMar, who we've had on the podcast, he's gonna be speaking. Also, Rick Green. I don't know if you guys have heard of Rick Green, but he runs Patriot Academy. Rick's got a ministry that teaches biblical citizenship to young people, and I know it sounds very blue coat and red tie and khaki pants, but I'm telling you, man, those kids are so lit, they're so on fire. And I believe he's got 55,000 young people taking his biblical citizenship class.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I got to speak during the conference a couple of weeks ago. So did Regis. Yeah, you should have heard Regis' speech. Pure fire, man. And I didn't know what we were getting into. And I've done a lot of the college stuff, young people stuff before. But man, I'm telling you, brother, if those young people are our future, then our frickin' future is looking bright.
That's awesome.
I mean, those guys are lit. They're smart. The guys were handsome. You know, the girls just beautiful. They weren't like gum-smacking morons, saying, yeah, and what? They weren't doing any of that. Just frickin' creme de la creme. Probably like 600 of them. And they're also learning how to create legislation, how to pass legislation, if people want to, get into representing we the people. And again, where everybody's like, everything's going to hell. It's like, not on their watch. I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
And so Rick, he's going to be speaking at the conference. So it's the Christian Patriots Rally for Freedom, and it's in Houston. And people can find it at
just follow your local FBI. I'm sure they'll be there.
Yeah, exactly. Just look for the Black Hawk helicopters buzzing.
Look for the guys who obviously Houston are FBI, regardless of what they're wearing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so Hotze's going to speak.
Sorry.
Rick Scarborough is going to speak. Gary DeMar, who's freaking brilliant, he's going to be talking about God and government, and he's going to be giving them old wispy-dispy Baptist dispensationalists a run for their money. Janet Porter, who's founder of Faith to Action, is going to be speaking on the criminalization of Christianity. And yours truly, I'm going to be talking about the Black Robe Regiment. And the conference is free. And Richie put it out there, I think Thursday of last week, already completely packed out. So we're going to add a morning session. And so hopefully open that up and get it packed out as well. About 1,500 people. And I think the natives are restless.
That's good, man. I like it.
You know, I think the natives are restless. So anyway, it's on Clash Daily. The title, if you want to find it, is Christian Patriots Rally for Freedom in Tejas. Hey, let's dig into the topic, man. It's kind of grim, and I don't know anybody it's worth their salt that likes to talk about this kind of stuff, but it's got to be discussed. You're obviously a parent of daughters, and you got boys that are growing up, and you got stepsons and stuff that are going through high school. And Rich, I know everybody says, well, back in our day, it was much better than, it is today. I think it's kind of true, man, because the aggravation of assault, the fentanyl drug use where people are just dropping like flies. It wasn't like the day when you and I are smoking, ragweed, Colombian Gold, and drinking Boone's Farm, Strawberry Hill. The violence level has spiked. You go to these states, these enclaves, these cities that are pretty much Democratic control. They're completely out of flipping control. And then with social media, you've got a glut of just, I don't know how to even phrase it, man. Young kids with zero governors who go zero to stupid in 2.1 seconds. I think unlike, we did in our day, and I did a bunch of dumb, ridiculous stuff, man. But anyway, I'll get to what I'm talking about. Kylie Rodney, 16, who went missing on August 6th after attending an end-of-the-year high school party. They found her in a frickin' lake, Rich. The cops had been looking for her for like 2 weeks. I think it was 20,000 total man-hours, and they couldn't find her. And then a quote-unquote amateur diving crew found her in 35 minutes. I think she's like, her SUV, her car was like 50 feet off a shoreline, and boom, it's upside down, and she's in it. She's at a party. Next thing you know, they find her 3 weeks later, at the bottom of a lake. And I don't know about you, but if that was my daughter, well, I do know about you. Absolutely inconsolable. Is this an avoidable tragedy, Rich? And if so, how do we unpeel this onion and learn something from it?
Well, it is. It's a difficult topic to address because people get so upset as if you're blaming the victim, and obviously we're not blaming the victim. That doesn't make any sense. Can't even imagine what her family's going. I can't even imagine. Like, I've been through some difficult times with my daughters, with them growing up, and I just can't even imagine dealing with that. I've dealt with parents who have had teens who had died, even had been murdered, and that stuff is, it's so horrific, right? So our heart goes out to them, obviously. But the goal, it's not to blame her, but if we can't look at it and see if there's a way to avoid it, then we're just destined for more kids to go down that road, right? And so we have to start addressing these things and teaching our kids to be, to watch, to be vigilant. I don't know if you've seen, this is not really off topic. I don't know if you've ever seen the guy on videos on social media, and he goes to bars and he drops an aspirin in women's drinks. And then as soon as they don't see it and they go to drink it, he stops them and calls her friends or her boyfriend or whoever she's with. And he's like, hey, and he shows them the video. It's like, people don't even pay attention. That's how easy it is. And I know people, Doug, who have been drugged like that because they don't pay attention, And so the thing is to not feel safe, but to always be on guard and to look at these situations, teach our kids. That's what we're talking about. Teach our kids. And I'll tell you some stories with the church and stuff as we go on through the podcast. But I'm telling you what, man, we got to teach our kids to be vigilant, to be paying attention, to always know who's around, to know what's going on. Why? Because we're mean? No, because we want them to be alive.
Yeah, it ain't a freaking game, and like I said, I think you know, the vice level and the amount of people that get off on bizarre stuff online has spiked exponentially, or at least they have, you know, more readily access to people when they tag themselves like, "Hey, I'm at a party in Miami." It's like, why did you just tell whomever, thousands of people where you're freaking at?
And you're also telling them you're not home.
Exactly, man. Like when I go on safari or go on fishing trips or, you know, vacate every now and then and stuff, I don't freaking tell people. It's like, "Oh, I'm in Africa right now. The keys under the big pot on the front porch." Right. You know, it's like the combination to my safe. Well, at least the one in the main house is blam 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 blam. I got guns here, guns there, and a little stash of cash, you know, over here. It's like, God. People just stupid pills, man.
Yep.
And you know, and we sound like just freaking old crotchety, antiquated types. If you run a carbon-14 test on us, we're from the Jurassic era. It's like, watch out, little kitties. It's like, no, I think things have spiked, man. Fentanyl, you can put like a tiny pin drop on a freaking bowl of weed, and you can crush it in a bong, and the next thing you know, like your head explodes.
Yep. No, that's right.
Or something.
And one of my
different
friends,
weed, man.
He's friends with the guy who runs Vice in Las Vegas, which that's some serious stuff right there. And he said 80% of everything that they recover is laced or contaminated with some level of fentanyl.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
It's a freaking dice roll, man. So you got monkeypox, you got all kinds of insane venereal diseases. So it's a sexual minefield.
Right.
Then you got, from a drug standpoint, you got what your buddy just said, Vice, in regards to Vegas. It's like, that's probably got some taint on it. And we're not talking about, you know, talcum powder or, you know, a little PCP.
Yeah.
Freaking cutting it with fentanyl, which again is, we've seen a spike just in your part of Arizona alone of 100,000 plus people. You know, I think that's what I saw the other day, man. Who knows? My mind is slipping away, but there's over hundreds of thousands or 100,000 people here in the United States that have died with fentanyl for the last year, and it's just flooding across the border.
Right.
So you got the sexual minefield, you got the drug minefield, you got the violence, you got the freaks that want to duct tape you and put you in the back of a Trans Am. If I'm the weird dad and granddad, and if you are, you know, this persnickety, you know, father and grandfather, then so frickin' be it, man. I'd rather have as a testimony, yeah, she eschewed, you know, some kind of pursuit by some perpetrator, and she lived to live another day and pursue her dreams.
Well, and then there's the other aspect of human trafficking, and like Phoenix is I think #1 in the U.S. for human trafficking. It's the 5th largest city metropolitan. Of course, Arizona's on the border of Mexico, but it's the #1 city for sex trafficking, and it's terrifying. There was a story that I read. A lady went to Scottsdale for an interview for a job, and it was at a real high-end, upscale hotel, and which is normal, and go into the main suite, you know, and you go there and have an interview. That's not uncommon. And she went there, and she had the interview, and everything was going great. And then the guy punches her in the face and rapes her. And when he's done, he says, "Oh, look, there's camera here, camera here, camera here, camera here. You tell anybody, I'll put all this all over the internet. I'll ruin your life." So she leaves. Obviously, she's in shame, can't tell anybody. What is she going to do, right? Well, guess what? A few months later, the guy calls her and says, "I have a friend coming into town. You're going to pick him up at the airport, and you're going to stay with him for the weekend." And she's like, "I can't." He said, "I'm going to send all this stuff to your parents." So she goes and does it. Next thing you know, 3 years down the road, Doug, she's making 10 to 20 grand as an escort for this guy, and she literally got raped into it. And people were like, "That wouldn't happen to me." Wait a minute. This is a high-end, butt-kicking, you know, like applying for an assistant CEO type job. This is not some broken down person. It can happen just like that. People are terrified, right? And then also, if you get kidnapped, they take a young girl and you're like, well, they would never do that. All they got to do is give you a little heroin, 2 to 3 days, you're hooked. And you will do anything. Any person can be addicted to heroin, and you will do anything to get the next fix. And some of those girls are literally being prostituted over 100 times a day. And they're literally handcuffed to a bed. And there was a lady that just recently escaped. And it had been years, Doug, hundreds of times a day for years. And she escaped. And the fact that her mind is not smashed and broken, because most of those people are so fragmented out of just a survival. You know, how could you withstand something that horrific? But she did. And she actually is like, she's a monster, bro. Anybody that can overcome that, I don't even, like that person, the greatness and the grace of God on that person's life is incredible. So we have to think about that's a reality. I have a friend also. She's a tattoo model here in Vegas. Annie and I are friends with her and her husband, been friends for a long time. She was at the mall where she owns a shop, ear piercing shop and stuff. And she was going to walk out to her car, and this car pulled up with these two guys in it and said, "Hey, you want to go to a party?" She said, "No." They started following her around the parking lot, and she saw what they were trying to do, and she turned around and sprinted for the doors. And they tried to cut her off in broad daylight, bro. And she runs inside, calls her husband, calls the cops. Everybody's on it. They ended up catching those guys. But, bro, this is at a mall in Phoenix in broad daylight. They tried to snatch a chick who's literally a business owner. Just snatch her up. Like, we have to be smart. And I don't know if I told you this. Annie was walking out of Walmart one day, and a guy who worked at Walmart that was leaving said, "Hey, that guy just took a picture up your dress." And Annie turned around. This guy was running, and the guy from Walmart took off chasing him. He couldn't catch him. And they went and looked at the cameras and stuff. There was no way to. But the guy literally just walked up behind her and put his phone under her dress and was taking pictures. Like, people, guys, we have to pay attention. We have to teach our wives to pay attention. We have to teach our daughters to pay attention, because they are not safe. And do we want you to be paranoid? Well, a little. We don't want you to be terrified and paralyzed. But do we want you to be paranoid? A little bit we do. Like a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's why, you know, when my daughters were young, and everybody and their dog who follows me knows about it, we insisted that they learn jujitsu. We insisted that they learn striking, knife skills, weapon skills. I think they got their first pistol before they were teenagers, and they shot and hunted with their old man and stuff. And you know, that whole thing of, well, you know, we don't want to raise paranoid, you know, children, and we don't want to be paranoid people. Here's where I get paranoid, is when they don't know how to assess the situation.
Yep.
When they don't know how to avoid the altercation. I'm really paranoid is that when they get in, you know, to the rugby scrum, they don't know what they're doing. And if the perpetrator really goes, you know, full retard, that they don't have the wherewithal to kill them if necessary.
Right.
That's when I'm paranoid. And I can tell you, man, with them, you know, training with the Gracies and the Valenti brothers and world-class fighters from all over this planet, guess who's not paranoid anymore?
Right.
Me.
Yeah,
I'm not.
But having said that, the number one thing is vigilance and understanding your surroundings.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, that's
you know,
number one. I mean, all that, the other stuff is obviously so important.
Well, that's
I'm not
why.
downplaying
That's why.
that, but
you know,
no,
I don't.
without knowing who's around and what's happening, it wouldn't even matter if you're Bruce Lee. You know, you gotta
Right.
be paying attention, man. You got.
Yeah, did you see the guy in Brooklyn that cold cocked? This guy's been in and out of jail there in New York, and they're like, no bail for him, and just let him free. He looks like an innocent, harmless guy, and he's standing in front of this restaurant. He comes up behind the dude, and the guy, to me, I don't see how the guy that he cold cocked didn't see him from his peripheral
Yep.
vision, because he's pretty much invading, you know, his personal space. He's getting real close. He walks right behind him. Dude, I would have spun around. I'm not going to sit there and watch some kind of shady, walk behind me when you come that close. And I don't know, man. I hate to be judgmental, but I can smell the crap off that dude, and I'm not even in proximity to him. I'm watching it. And like you said, the situational awareness, that's another great thing that that the Gracies did and the Valenti brothers did is make them, very cognizant.
That's good. That's the best.
Of what the hell is going on around you, man. And like you said about the drink stuff, this guy's dropping aspirin and he's like, hey, you want to see this video? It's like, yeah, this could have been a roofie. This could be a Molly. And next thing you know, you're, like you said, you're freaking in a cargo crate out of the port of Miami heading for Hong Kong.
Well, I mean, I'm a guy and ain't nobody trying to sex traffic me, right? But I'm a guy, and
you don't know. There could be a market.
I'm always paying attention wherever we go, whatever we do. I'm just always paying attention, because people are weird, people are dangerous, and I've also been in several terrorist attacks and some coup attempts, and I was in a revolution by accident. I've been in some places, right? So you might call me a little paranoid, but I remember we were in Vegas together, and that guy walked up, put his arm around Regis when she was standing there, and I turned around and I looked right at her right away. And she looked at me and smiled and just shook her head, no, don't worry about it, it's all good. And I'm just sitting there watching this guy, and it turned out the guy was nice, and he had lost a bet with his friends, and he was nice to Regis. He wasn't disrespectful, because we were there. He wasn't disrespectful in any way. He was fine. And he walked away. And I told Regis, don't worry, because I was watching you. She said, well, I had him. You didn't have to worry about it. And I was thinking, you could have whatever you want, Regis, but the second that guy touched you, there wasn't going to be no jiu-jitsu going on, because I was going to break his skull right out of his body. Anytime we're around anybody, here's a great point, Rich. We need to watch each other, right? We need to be.
So here's a great point, and I want to bring it back to Riley.
Yeah.
Good-looking, blonde-headed girl, 16. Like I said, found at the bottom of the lake. Can't imagine whatsoever. First of all, when you roll out and go party, all right, young people, do it in a frickin' group.
Yeah, don't go alone.
And make friends with monsters.
Dude,
like Rich,
short monster, a push down version.
Yeah, right. or some like me, like a Chinese crested, hairless, Chihuahua like dog. However, that is absolutely psycho and carries a gun all the time. So you want to go in groups. You want to have people that have your back there. And again,
watching out for each other.
Roll out like a freaking posse. Yeah. And so here, it's like, did she have anybody at all that had her six? Were the guys
her friends let her leave with?
Yeah, and again, that's something. It's like, no, you're not going to leave with that hood rat. No, that guy, he's a meth head. You're not going with him. And sorry, Charlie. And if I have to put you in a freaking headlock, then so be it. You're not gonna do that. And that's the kind of people, man, and friends that you got to find. I don't know if they're a rare commodity nowadays, but you should tell your stepsons. I know you probably told your sons. It's like, if you see any girl getting any kind of bull crap from any dude, and she's saying no, and he's still going stupid, then pick up a chair. I don't know, a brick, a bullwhip. 2 coconuts, and go over there and beat the shiitake mushrooms out of that guy. To me, there's no way in the world, and parents should be teaching their sons this. They should be teaching their daughters this. If you see that kind of crap go down, then interject yourself into that mix.
Yeah, don't video
with maximum force. Yeah, it's like, oh wow, I'm gonna put this on TikTok, man. It's like, no, be a freaking hero, you pussy, and jump into that fray and save that girl. Yep. And I think we ought to be teaching that kind of stuff, Rich. And 100%. I'm sitting there I look at what happened to Kylie, man, and it's like, she had nobody smelt a rat. And I guarantee that we're not even going to hear any more about this story, Rich.
Nope.
If it's not a Trump supporter that
killed her.
If it's not a Christian white Trump supporter,
quote
unquote, that put her down. And but again, going back to when you and I go out, when I don't care if I'm going anywhere.
Yeah, we always pay attention.
And I think I know that if some crap went down, then you would be on whoever did whatever to me, like stink on the monkey. I'd do the same. I think pretty much all my buddies, we roll like that. But again, I think it hails back from having traditional values, being raised by parents that didn't put up that kind of bull crap. And, we weren't going to film these horrendous acts. We were going to be filmed by the news team later after, we pummel that perpetrator furtively into the dirt.
Hey, man.
That's the only time we're going to get on camera.
I just remember this story. When I was in high school, I would have been 17 years old. And I was driving in the school parking lot before school, park my car, get out, and I hear this girl screaming, 2 girls screaming. And I turn around, there's a commotion going on in this car, and I run over there. And there's a guy, and he has a girl, like, in his lap. Her head's in his lap, and he's pushing his thumb, trying to push her eye out. And the other girl is on the driver's side, has that girl by the feet and is trying to pull her out of there. She can't, obviously. So as soon as I see that, and I was a wrestler. I was small, but I was a wrestler, right? So I grabbed the guy by his throat and bend him over the seat backwards. And when I did, of course, he grabbed my hands and he let go of the girl, and the other girl dragged her out. She dragged her out of the car. I let go of the guy and jumped out. And then he jumped out, and he was way bigger than me, and he looked like him and the gym had been introduced on several occasions. This is a big old dude, and he got out and he's like, let's go. And he's obviously fired up about everything in the whole world. It has nothing to do with me, but I'm about to pay the price. And 2 Mexican gang dudes that I grew up with since the time I was 4 years old, flew by me, and one of them punched that dude in the face twice and dropped him, and the other one started kicking him, and they're like, come on. So I started kicking too, because that's, I'm from there. And then we took off through the parking lot. Well, it turns out, the rest of the story, the girl had cheated on him with his best friend, right? So,
whoops.
So she, she didn't deserve to have her eye ripped out, right? I mean, that's not cool. But I'll tell you what, that guy actually ended up going to prison for that, and it wasn't that no one else was doing it. I was just the one that drove up. My friends came right away when they saw it. I don't think that I was special or some kind of hero, because I didn't even think about it. All I saw was someone was in danger, right, ran over. I think anybody in that area would have done that. Like you said, in our day, right, we're talking about 1986. In our day, anybody in that area would have ran and done the same thing, the exact same thing. And even if the guy would have whooped me, it would have been worth it. Girl's eyes in her head, right? Like,
yeah, so it's a biblical concept. If people are like, well, Jesus wouldn't do that. Like, the hell he wouldn't. He said, if you offend a little kid, I'll sink you into the bottom of an ocean, with concrete tied to your neck. When he saw, price gouging in the temple, he started table tossing. And you've got the law in Exodus. It's like, you cannot stand by and watch a guy get his donkey or his coat or anything ripped off. You can't.
That's right.
You can't film it. It's like Seinfeld. Their last episode, they're filming that big fat dude getting ripped off or carjacked or whatever happened to him, and they got thrown in jail because of that. It's called hue and cry. If you see it, you gotta do something about it. So let's bounce through this list real quick, Rich, for parents and young people. So again, keep an eagle eye on your drink.
Yes.
If you're and again, it sucks, but that's our fetid middle you nowadays. And if Rich, we gotta put that video out on our mailer where that guy's dropping the aspirin, because I think we need to rightfully be concerned.
Can you find that? And let's make sure we put that out. We will.
All right, so keep your head on a swivel. Look at your drink, watch your drink. If it tastes like Drano, throw it out. If you suspect it, it's not worth it. And if you're ordering beer,
keep it in your hand.
If you're ordering beer, have them open that, or you open it at the table. Same thing with bottled water. When I hate this kind of crap, when I get a bottle of water and they crack it open, it's like, hey, leave my bottle of water alone. I will open it. Thank you very much. And if you're at some kind of party thing, bring your own thermos. Bring your own booze or whatever you're going to drink. Get like a skull thermos so people can feel that vibe coming off you to not jack with you whatsoever. What do you think?
I like it.
Also, if you or your best friend feel extremely woozy after one Coors Light, get help quick, because what just happened, Rich?
Yep, you got drugged. Hey, I know a girl, when I was in Bogota, Colombia. This is how crazy it is. I was in Bogota. They put a guide with us, and her job was to translate for us and take us around. We're at the conference, wherever, right? So she'd meet us in the morning, and then at night after dinner, she'd drop us off at the hotel, and then she's gone. Well, we had a new lady on the Saturday morning, or a guy, I don't remember. And we're like, where's she at? Oh, she's not feeling too well. Okay, whatever. So we saw her on Sunday. That's not what happened. She dropped us off at the hotel. We had a transport. She got into a cab. On the way home, she heard and felt something on the back of her hair. When the guy stopped at the light, she opened the door, ran out of the cab straight to a house, banged on the door and said, "I'm drugged, get me to the hospital." And she fell on the ground, unconscious. Was in the hospital. The guy had a button in the car that he hit that sprays a topical on the back of her head. Then they put him in the trunk and take him to another city. Boom, get him hooked on heroin, and you're a prostitute. And that, bro, that happened to the girl who was our guide. So if you think that these things can't happen, and you think, oh, that's Colombia, it can happen so fast, so easy. Just watch where you're at, know your surroundings, know who you're with.
Right.
Don't get drunk.
Yeah, and watch Man on Fire with Denzel Washington and Taken with Liam Neeson. Again, people are like, well, aren't you a little extremes? Like, listen, you don't need it till you need it. And I think the confidence that, situational awareness via, long time training with guys like Pedro Valenti and the Gracie brothers, Hoyce in particular, I think it's money well spent. And do I wish they could twirl on their toes and be a ballerina? Yeah, but we happen to live in Thunderdome, and people are skipping steps. And I'm more, happy clappy when I watch my daughters, when I come into a situation and they're standing in their guard and nobody knows why they're standing like that. And so it's interesting. And here's another little ditty for parents, because I'm not a teetotaler, man. I drink, you drink. My kids, I think they've been. I don't know if I can say this on a podcast. I think they've been drinking before they hit double digits. My wife's Italian, Sicilian, so they freaking put alcohol in their Similac when they're 2 years old. They grew up drinking alcohol. It's part of the culture and the Italian family and stuff like that. Never been a big deal with our family. You got to slow down though. Just drink water in between your drinks. Try to keep it down to like 2 with a lot of water in between. What do you think about this, Rich? Don't mix your liquor. Is there truth to this sentiment?
Yes.
Like I hear people say never switch your grains.
Yeah.
So whiskey on beer, never fear. Beer on whiskey, risky.
Yeah.
Do you believe anything like that?
They say beer after liquor, never been sicker. So I don't know, man. I'm a simple guy. You know what I mean? If I'm drinking wine, I'm having wine. If I'm having some, vodka, I'm gonna have a little vodka. If I'm gonna have some bourbon, I'm gonna have a little bourbon. I don't mix it up. I'll take more time to decide what I want, because that's what I'm gonna have. I don't mix it up. It's against my religion, man.
You got to commit.
Yeah.
You got to commit.
Yeah.
Right. And again, don't act like you're freshman in first week, getting hazed and stuff. Just take your time. You can enjoy it. You don't have to be frickin' Keith Moon or Nick Cage's character in Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, and if you got to be drunk to have a good time, then you probably need to go see a counselor.
Yeah. Also, and I sound so much like a hypocrite saying this, Rich. But don't play drinking games. It doesn't end well. And I was a king of drinking games, man. I could play quarters, Rich. I could take a quarter, put it like right here, roll it down my arm, off the diving board of my skinny elbow, bam, hit the table, and then flip, boom, into the cup at 4 feet away.
And we are not in the days where that's going to end up good. Kids don't play drinking games. Don't let your kids do that stuff. Teach them the dangers of it. Because next thing you know, you're lit. And you know what the problem is, especially if you're drinking hard liquor. Your kids shouldn't be drinking hard liquor. Your kids shouldn't be drinking. But if they do, and by the time they realize that it's too much, it's too late.
Ooh.
Because they're already 2 or 3 drinks past that hitting him. And it's not good. You got to be smarter than that, man.
So here's a list when you're going into the party zone. Think about who you're going to invite, or if you're creating a party, think about who you're going to invite to the party. And And if you want Hell's Angels, then invite Hell's Angels. If you don't, then make sure that they and Courtney Love don't get the party invitation. Number two, decide pretty quickly what kind of party you want and stick to that blueprint. You ever seen parties like start off this way and then just just completely gets out of control? Think about how you're going to get the word out about the party. It could go rogue if it gets traction on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. If you're going to be loud, like really loud, you might get fined. Bro, I know, like, if my neighbors really start some out of control stuff, I'm calling the cops on them.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I didn't pay for that.
And let me say this: you know, Warriors and Wildmen listeners might be listening to this, and maybe you listen to it with your teenagers, and you're appalled, and you're thinking, "Man, my kids don't drink; they're not going to drink." Okay, good. That's the best way. That's the best route. I support you 100%, and you're right. And we're talking about trying to get people to pay attention to their surroundings. We're not saying that you should send your kids to parties and they should be out drinking. That has nothing to do with what we're trying to say. And I will tell you this, when I was a teen and early 20s, I abused alcohol like crazy, and I was an idiot. And when I became a Christian, I didn't drink, not a drop, except for one time in communion they had real wine. But other than that, not a drop of alcohol for 12 years until I grew up and I knew how to, enjoy it and let it be a good part of maybe a celebration or a nice evening without ruining my life, and ended up with silver handcuffs and 3 hots and a cot. But the reality, we're not trying to promote that. We're not saying that. But we're saying if your kids are going to go out and they're going to do stuff, even if they're not drinking, they're going to these type of parties or they're hanging out with their friends, they're inevitably going to be around people like this. They need to pay attention and watch out for the dangers. And if they don't drink, they need to watch out for their friends who are, and be that friend that's watching out for them. So we're not trying to promote that to you and your kids.
Right.
We're saying, hey, we need to watch our kids and teach our kids, how to be vigilant and diligent in understanding their surroundings and the dangers that are around them. And alcohol and drugs, and you might be drinking water like Doug said, boom, fentanyl, you're OD'd, or boom, roofie, you wake up somewhere else. And so that, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and a lot of kids, the old refrain in Proverbs 22, I think it's verse 6, raise up a child in the way to go, and they'll not depart from it, but most of them do. And which I think is a misinterpretation of that verse, especially if you read it in the Amplified. Raise up a child in the way he should go, in keeping with their individual gifts and bents, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. In other words, coach them. But so if we're like, don't do this and don't do that, they're probably going to do it. I hate to, be that guy. So the reason I wrote this chapter, and I put it in my Raising Righteous and Rowdy Girl book, is if they decide, my glide path's not a teetotaling glide path, I want to drink wine, I want to enjoy, what the good Lord blessed us with, then keep your freaking head about you when you do it. So that's simply all that we're saying. It's not like, go out there, and no, don't go out there. Go, if you're going to go out there, but go in, with eyes, wide open, and have rules in your mind about how you're going to play and how you're going to party, and roll out with a team. Befriend guys who are knuckle-dragging, troglodytic, good guys who have a hero spirit in them that will beat, like I said earlier, the shiitake mushrooms at anybody who decides they're going to give you a hard time. And we're living in weird times, man. And you gotta, if you're going to party, and if you're going to inject alcohol into your system, then man, you got to do it in regards to a 2022 type mindset, instead of like, well, this is just like Mayberry RFD, Rich,
right,
from Aunt B and Andy Taylor and Thelma and Barney used to have little drinks and sips of beer, on their movie night. No, it's not. Well, it's absolutely not.
Another thing too is that because I'm watching people, when I see people that I see that are dangerous or a possible threat, and I'm watching them, many times, I'm not talking about sometimes, I'm talking about most times, they notice that I'm watching them, and then they are wondering, is that guy going to be a problem to us? And the truth is, I've had many times when they come up to talk to me, or when I'm walking by, I'll say hi to them to let them know, I saw you looking at me, I'm looking at you, but I'm nobody. I'm here with my friends, just trying to hang out and have a good time. And it always settles the tension. But you know why? Because those people that you would think are dangerous are also always on the lookout for people who might cause them harm. So that's not a bad thing. And whenever that happens, just let people know we're all good. And you'll find that wherever you go, man, some of the people that you think are dangerous are actually the people just watching out for dangerous people. You know? So
amen to
be
that,
sharp,
brother.
man. Let's be on the ball.
Yeah, protect our kids. Kids, when you're out there and you're partying, having a quote-unquote good time, again, treat it like you're a special operator.
Yep.
And you're looking for problems, and you're there to protect and serve. And so anyway, Rich, we're running out of time, but not sentiments. What's the Warrior and Wildmen listener to do, big dog?
Go to warriorsandwildmen.com. Subscribe. It is free. We'll hit you up with a couple emails a week, let you know what's happening, keep you posted. If you want to help support the ministry, go to the War Chest. It's tax deductible. When you give your gift, we'll send you the information on that. At the end of the year, you'll get a tax report of all the money that you gave, so you can get that written off on your taxes. For those that are helping do that, we appreciate you guys who are making it happen. Warriors and Wildmen, out.